Kaya Podcast would like to acknowledge that this episode was recorded on Whadjuk land of the Noongar people. We recognise our First Nations people as the traditional custodians of the land, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present and future. So Kaya Wanju, hello and welcome to the Kaya Podcast show. Now, I don't disappoint with my guests. Every week we are getting on more and more guests who have amazing stories, who are amazing people doing amazing things and amazing role models. They're just bloody amazing. So I am honored today to be welcomed by someone not only gracing me with their presence as a presenter, as an MC, as a host, a fellow podcaster. See, I've got a lot to live up to for this episode. A fellow podcaster, a fellow PT, a fitness influencer, a role model. She's working in, outside, around the AFL, all this other stuff. I would like to welcome Megan Waters. How are you, mate?
Hi, brother. Oh man, I'm so happy to be able to finally connect with you and sit down and have a yarn. It's been a long time coming, and just so awesome to see what you're doing too. And you always draw inspiration from kind of your brothers and your sisters that are around you. And love following along with your things too. But thank you for that very kind introduction.
Oh, thank you very much. I was practicing. I was in the mirror and I was practicing all morning about it. But no, like I look and I see what you're doing. Because obviously, us black fellows, we all, like you said, we all draw our inspiration from each other and all this stuff. And then I look at what you're doing, and I'm like, man, I got to get my shit together. Like, like you're just amazing. You're everywhere, aren't you?
Oh, thank you. It's so funny that you say that, because I look around and I'm like, all right, I got to get my shit together. So don't worry, no matter like however many things you got going on, you always still feel like you got to be doing more, or whatever. But yeah, no, thank you. I've been on been on a pretty cool journey, particularly over the last couple of years, and heaps of growth and heaps of lessons and navigating lots of new spaces, and it's been really fun, but also like quite challenging at certain times. I've met so many amazing people, again, like particularly over the last couple of years, kind of in a post-COVID world. I've taken on some different sort of roles in terms of my career, and it's been it's been awesome.
Has there been roles that you like thought you would take on before? Like if you, like me, for example, if you would have told me maybe 10 years ago, like, oh, you're going to do a podcast one day and talk to these amazing people, I'll be like, yeah, whatever. I don't know what you're smoking, but that's not, that's not me. But like you said, post COVID, it kind of changes people. What's some roles that you're in now where you're like, oh, I would have never thought I'd be doing this?
Oh, well, I mean, it's funny because, you look back, and firstly, for me, it's yokai. Like, I would have never anticipated, if you told me even 5 years ago that I was going to be involved working with the AFL, working alongside some of the greatest footballers of all time, and just working on TV and stuff like that, I would literally I'd laugh. I'd be like, what are you smoking? Because I want some. But nah, it's been really cool. And it's funny though, because what I was about to say before is, if I was to now reflect and think back to being like a young kid and everything, it's sort of what I'm doing now are all the things that I kind of dreamed of, and like where I could, picture myself. I always used to, muck around and, be watching TV, and I always loved sport and used to make these little home videos of like presenting and stuff. So and my favorite subject at school was always drama, and was always PE and stuff. So it's funny that like sport and drama, like all those things that I was so passionate about as a young girl, and what I dreamed of, and now what I'm doing, even though if you told me 5 years ago, I'd literally laugh. But yeah, it's pretty funny how it comes full circle.
And how you've able to make that like a reality. Like that's freaking awesome. Like it's funny how like those little things, those character building things, growing up kind of build who you are, but you're able to make a career out of it and just live in the dream. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah. And I think it, like, for me, it didn't like happen overnight, that's for sure. You know, like I spent a lot of time kind of making mistakes and doing things that I didn't really like doing either. And, you know, doing different jobs that I was like, oh no, this isn't for me. This isn't where I sort of see myself. And so, you know, you got to go and do a couple of things that maybe don't sort of fill your cup up as much to figure out what the things are that do fill them up. And, you know, it's a bit of a journey, and it definitely has taken me time. But yeah, it feels nice now to be in a position where the work that I am doing feels really fulfilling and meaningful.
I actually love that you use that cup analogy, or what fills your cup up, because I've got this funny thing with my producer where we was talking about like the cup, and and I was showing him, you know, I think it was Jonathan Major's interview on it, and it was like, all right, you've got to protect your cup. You know, you can't that's your cup. You don't let no one fill you up or pour you out, and you protect it. And then we kind of got into it, and like the light, something was messing up. Like the lighting was messing up. The microphones weren't connecting properly. And he's like, is your cup? You've got to protect your cup. Like, fuck the cup. I'm trying to set this shit up. But I am a strong believer in protecting your cup. So I 100% hear what you say. This question has gone a bit away from the podcast, more of a personal question. How do you manage like the different hats that you wear? Like I touched on in the intro, you know, you're a presenter, you're an MC, you're a host, you know, you do stuff, you've got your own fitness stuff that you do, that we'll get into in a bit. But how do you kind of manage your like yourself, but switching between hats, between roles, you know, being in front or behind the camera and all that sort of stuff? This is for me. It's stuff that the listeners, I want to know.
Oh, far out. It's so funny because I'm a like tragically unorganized human. Like I've never, well, I've had to evolve into being a little bit better and figuring out ways to be a bit more organized. But I haven't, prior to being in this position where I have had to wear multiple hats, I've just had to learn different tools and whatnot. But it's funny, like even my mum and that now, like it's so funny for even some of my friends who've known me for a long time. They're like, I don't know how you're doing all this shit, because it's not the Megan that we know. But it's just like, for me, it's little things. And honestly, just firstly, in terms of a time management thing, it's like using a calendar, like being really structured with my Google Calendar. Like I've got all these different colors for my calendar, and, you know, making sure I look at that. I literally look at my calendar now, like probably 10 times a day. And then just making sure I carve out space to just make a bit of a plan for the week. Like ideally on a Sunday, or even sometimes on a Monday, I like to sit down and go, okay, cool. Like, what have I got coming up? If it's emceeing on the weekend, it's like prioritizing that workload, like knowing the things that I need to give 80% versus the things that I need to give 20, and just making sure that I'm really organized with that kind of thing. Because my weeks are really different. Like there's never a week where I am doing the same thing repetitively, or, you know, there are
it's
like,
it's not robotic. Yeah, it keeps it fresh.
yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, there's like different events, or like I might be traveling interstate for something or whatever. And so, yeah, just, I think it's just like prioritization and organization, but also making sure you're carving out time to make a bit of a plan. And if I don't do that and I'm just doing things on the fly, I notice that that's when things fall through the cracks. So it's like, give yourself a moment to just sit down, nut out a plan, and then it kind of flows from there pretty well. And then outside of that as well, like in terms of just managing my mental health and stress and stuff, like there are periods where it's hectic. Like, you know, we just had Sir Doug Nicholls rounds recently, and that period, you know, working in AFL is always, you know, you have a little bit of extra commitment and whatnot. And, you know, you've got to do all these extra things, but you still got to maintain working at the gym, or like I've got some events with Nike and bits and pieces. And I tend to just go 100% all in with work, but then I also go 100% all in with like letting my hair down and trying to decompress and finding that sweet spot in between where, you know, I like to just go outside and just catch my breath and shut my eyes and listen to the sounds around me and be in nature. I always feel like when my feet are on country and I'm in nature, I can just like breathe properly. And that's always really important because you often go through periods, and you would be the same with work and stuff, like high stress, high anxiety. You need to find ways to come down back to earth.
And then sometimes when you get like really down and into it, then it's like, all right, I've had a bit of a break, and you kind of got to like amp yourself up to get back into your routine or back into your schedule. And then it's like you're either on one side of the spectrum or the other. Like it's life.
100%. 100%. I just got back from a trip. I went away for the last week, and it was just so nice to have a week off to just like turn my phone off and disconnect. But now it's like I'm slack. I didn't want to come back. I don't want to work again.
Yeah, it's like welcome back. And at least it's not coming up to one of the most busiest times of the year of NAIDOC week coming up. Hey, like
Right.
I love NAIDOC week, but I cannot wait for it to be over. It's the next 2 months look hectic. But so you've
you know what? It's
touched.
the best about NAIDOC is like
What's that?
it just brings everyone together. Like I'm looking forward to, you go through that period, but again, like you need to kind of decompress from those moments because you just go so all in, and it's so social, and you got all these catch ups and all these mob coming together. It's the best.
Yep. And then you gotta like turn it on beforehand. Like when you get in there, you're like, okay, I've got energy, I'm ready to go, I'm happy to see everyone. And then it's infectious though, because then afterwards you feel like I don't know about you, but when you kind of have to turn it on to kind of get in the zone and stuff, afterwards you feel a lot better, whereas you're a bit energized, a bit refreshed and stuff. But I'm more looking forward to the feeds. Like I had a NAIDOC breakfast this morning, and I was like, oh, this is so lovely. This is a great Monday. Like,
Yeah, true God.
So let's talk a little bit about your co-host. All right, we might talk about the podcast too. That might be a good idea. But let's talk about your talking it up co-host, Uncle Andy Crackett. How did that kind of came around? Did you establish a relationship at Yokai when you guys are doing Yokai footy, or did it predate Yokai?
Yeah, so I met Andy originally. So I started doing yokai in 2021, and they'd already done one season prior to that with Bianca Hunt and Tony. So they kind of started it off, and then and then Tony and I did a season together, and then Tony went off to go and be the shining superstar that he is. And they used to have Andy come on as a regular guest. And so I met him a couple of times in that first season. He would come on as a guest, and from there we built a really good relationship. And then once Tony had moved on, they had welcomed Andy in as the next co-host. And so it's been me and him ever since. And I love that man. He's my brother. Like literally, he's my brother. And I am so grateful that I get to go to work every day, every Monday, and we record. We still do yokai footy, but it's yokai shorts now. So on a Monday we go into AFL House and we record a little 5-minute footy recap of the round prior. And so it's good. I get to catch up with him every Monday, and then we've just started this podcast this year as well, which has been so deadly. But he's just a really humble man,
so down to
family
earth.
so kind. Him and his beautiful family, like I just love Barb, his partner, and their beautiful girls. And we, sometimes I've picked his little daughter up, Rainey, and taken her on a little play date during school holidays. So they definitely become part of like my my family, my extended family, especially here in Melbourne. Like I'm from Larrakia country originally, so when you don't live on country and you live away from mob and your own mob and your family, it's so nice to feel like you got a connection close by when you're off country. And I really feel that with Andy and his family. So he's a very special man, and he's got a very inspiring story. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, brother, you got to write a book, or like you got to start telling your story more. But he's deadly.
Yeah, well, I've noticed like the podcasting and the stuff he's doing in the media is his way of, telling his story and stuff like that. He actually gave me, Uncle Andy actually gave me my first taste of like live presenting and talking. So I think it was 2017. We was doing like a footy trip over there, and um we had like a Channel 7 tour or something. And then he kind of sat down and we were in front of the cameras and we're like, oh, we're going to do like a mock interview. So everyone's going to, video it. And then he kind of gets up, and the way he just directed everyone's, and this is one bloke who's just, he's only done his media training through, Collingwood and stuff. He was kind of directing everyone on where to go. Like the way he would go from one segment to the other. And I'm just sitting there just in awe, like this bloke is wicked. But I've noticed that on your guys on the Talking It Up podcast. Um, Shout out to Talking It Up podcast. You can stream via the AFL app. But your guys' rapport is so effortless. Like you said, you just have that connection and that easy. That stuff, it doesn't get written in script. It's all, some people have it, some people don't, and you guys just have it.
Yeah, thank you. Nah, and we do, and it makes such a difference when you know that you are going into spaces where sometimes you don't always feel, maybe not welcome is, well, yeah, maybe not welcome, but also like where where you kind of have to fit in. We're always usually the only black fellas walking around in a lot of these spaces. And so it's so nice to know that you've got somebody sitting alongside you who's got your back, and we really do have each other's back, especially when it was Yokai, like prior to it being Yokai Footy Shorts, the last couple of seasons when it wasn't a TV production and a 1 hour football show that would appear on NITV. And, we would often have to have some pretty difficult conversations. Of course, there's a lot of things that still impact our mob every day. And, we're having to talk about topics like racism a lot, and to know that you're supported in your co-host, that like if I'm having a bit of a moment where I can't get my words out, or I'm a bit struck down by emotion or whatever, like there's just a real sense of trust in each other, knowing that like we've got each other's back and we support each other. And I'll always go to Andy for advice, and vice versa. We often lean on each other for a lot, and yeah, really have that good respect for each other. And you obviously you saying that, you can see that it's really genuine, because it translates in the way that we co-host together and with Talking It Up and stuff. And thank you for the shout out as well for that.
No, you got it. See, this is where my media training is starting to pay off a little bit. But have you had a favorite guest on there yet? I know that's a horrible question. It's a horrible question. I can't.
Far out. We've had so many great guests on. I mean, in terms of conversation and on Talking It Up, we've had all of them have been amazing, but it was pretty special to have Lydia Williams on recently, especially after announcing her retirement. Longer serving Matilda, or everything, Noongar woman as well, and everything that she's contributed to women's football is just it. To have had her take the time out to come on was really special. Had a yarn with Courtney Ugle as well, and she's got an incredibly powerful and tragic story that she shares, and she just shares so raw and beautiful, and I love her so much. So those were really great yarns as well. On Yokai, it was pretty special to have Shawnee Burgoyne come on ahead of his 400th. Whenever that was it last season or the season before? And I mean, Uncle Nicky Wimmer, Uncle Michael Long, like we've Uncle Jack Charles, bless, we had him on Yokai not too long before he passed. And so that's something that I just treasure, and it makes me choked up even thinking that we, feel so grateful that we had such a special elder that we got to sit down and connect with. And yeah, we've had so many amazing guests, and I just pinch myself every day that this has become my work. It's so special, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, like you said, like just thinking it is so special. I mean, think about when 20, 30 years ago, having a platform like this for them mob to being able to tell their story and you know, from their perspective is just is wild. But the fact that we're able to do that today, you can hear their story from their voices, and being at the forefront of that, it's yeah, it just gives me chills. That stuff like that, it's making history. It's stuff like that. It hasn't happened before. Like it's a beautiful thing that you guys are doing.
Oof.
Is
You're
yeah,
just giving me
right?
goosebumps
That's what
too.
I'm saying.
Ooh.
I've lost my. I had a plan of how this podcast was going to go. I lost it. It all went out the window. um,
But it's nice to hear that too, because one thing that I think that we forget to do, especially as busy people, business people, you would be the same, is like sometimes you forget to sit down and reflect and
mhm.
like actually just go, fuck, that's pretty cool. Like, that's pretty special or whatever. Like you can just be so,
Yep.
driven by whatever comes next. So you just got to sit down sometimes and go, I did this, or we worked on this thing and that was deadly. And like, it's
Mm-hmm.
special. And so thank you, because it gives you an opportunity to go, holy
Yeah.
shit, like
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
doing cool stuff and it's important. And we're, you too, like, even 10-15 years ago, like we wouldn't have had podcasts with black voices telling yarns like this and catching
Mm-hmm.
up when it just wasn't a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're a pioneer, you're leading the way too in this media landscape, and it's opening doors, creating spaces for our next younger ones to keep following suit, because these weren't things
Mm-hmm.
that were an opportunity 10-15 years ago, really.
Yeah, yeah, and this is what our culture is all about. It's about leading, and then it's about leading and following, and you know, helping our followers become leaders. That's the whole premise of Aboriginal culture is teaching through doing. Like, that's why our culture's lived on for thousands and thousands of years, and why not much of it is written. I could go. Okay, see, I'm getting off topic, but yeah, that's why that's why we do what we do. So, and obviously, Kaya podcast is a big inspiration. Is a off of what you guys do and you guys leading the way, and Arnie Shelley Ware and what she's doing as such a
Love her.
professional. Arnie Norelda Jacobs, like just these pioneers. Where I hope that they know how much they've influenced us, and taken the hard yards for us to come along with our podcast and breeze away. um
Yeah,
I see you ran the Melbourne half marathon. Was it last year?
it was last year and the
Last
year
year
before.
and the year before. I'm currently training for a half marathon. I need some tips. I'm hitting 15 Ks, and then I'm dying, and then I'm crying, and I'm arguing with myself, and I need some tips, bro. What you got for me?
Firstly, get some good shoes. I hope you're running in some good Nikes. That would be my little,
I just got these Asics.
Asics.
I just got the Asics. So what? I need to
Nice.
throw these out and go get some Nikes, or what?
Well, look, you wouldn't catch me in anything but a pair of Nikes, but that's all right. As long as you got shoes that are going to go the distance, honestly,
Mhm.
makes such a big difference. But good on you. Like running is hard,
Yeah, so
especially if you especially if you're not traditionally a runner, like I embarked on this running kind of journey during COVID because I wasn't able to get to the gym as much, and this
Mhm.
opportunity popped up to at that point it was my first run, like fun run type thing, like that was the 10K, and that was the furthest that I'd ever run in my life. Like
Yeah.
if I ever did chose to go for a run, it would only be like a 3, maybe 5K. If I'm
Mhm.
going to do a movement practice, I'd rather just like go to the gym or something like that.
Right?
um but I really, during that time, like there's something so like empowering about being outside and like hearing your feet hit the pavement, and there's like this sense of euphoria when you finish a run like that. You just, nothing feels quite like it.
Mhm.
And so I got a little bit addicted to it during that period, and yeah, the last couple of years I've done the half marathon, and I'm going to do it again this year.
Mhm.
Because it's a nice little challenge, I feel like, going through, especially it's like usually you're training for it through the winter months, and I live in so it's cold
Mm.
as, so
Mhm.
it's like a good challenge to get outside and go for a run, and just it's like that, yeah, like that feeling of crossing the finish line, knowing you've trained for, usually it's about 12 weeks prior, like solidly.
Yep.
No, it's good. But I think making sure in terms of advice, it's have some good shoes, but also like making sure you're prioritizing a good amount of rest in there as well.
Okay, that's a big
I
one.
would
Yep. Okay.
rest because it's like, you got to exercise and stuff, but we're busy people, you work, your mind is always busy. So making sure you actually dedicate a solid day to just not moving, just taking it easy, nourishing your body with good food, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, just making sure as well that as you get closer in particular, you do have to get those long runs in. So it's good that you're hitting like 15. If you can run 15K on the day, a half marathon is a breeze.
All right.
Because that was me the first year I did it. The maximum distance that I'd run prior to was 14 kilometers. So I'd actually never actually done the 21K before. So if you're hitting 15Ks now, you're gonna be sweet, brother.
Okay, so we got shoes, right? Rest.
Yeah.
What was the third thing? We had nutrition in there, all right? So
long run. Make sure you get a long run in at least once a week.
long run once a week. Define long run.
Long run would be up to, I would say, like 14, 15K.
14, 15.
If you're training for a half.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So far I've got this. I don't know if you can read it or if it's backwards. No, it should be good. But running brings out. I've only started running, not religiously, but taking it more seriously in the last like couple weeks. In the last like maybe 2 months, I reckon, because before that you rely on your sport, you rely on going to the gym, or any of that other stuff, but running has just been so different. Like the feeling you get after completing a train, like a session in the morning, and you just feel like whatever goes on today, like I'm good. I just did a run. I can go get a nice coffee, and like everything is beautiful. But when we talked about like that connection side, I joined Borlu Raw, which is a running club, and like a indigenous running club.
Love that.
And it's freaking awesome. So I think Bree Yaron is one of the runners that runs it. They do like the New York City Marathon. They did some relay, and she's gonna hate me for not remembering. But some relay over on the East Coast like last month, and it's just you go down there and it's a bunch of black fellas, like, and it's just like you said, that camaraderie, that togetherness, and then you'll go off and die on a long run together. It's awesome.
But it's community, true. Like, and that's another piece of advice too. Like, if you want to get into running, find a running community, because when you got somebody else that you got to be accountable to, and you know that there's a set time that you got to run on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever it might be. It just makes it easier to get out the door, because that's always half the challenge, isn't it? It's just actually getting it done, like getting out the door. Because once you start, you feel amazing, and you feel even better once you're done. So
For me, it's like trying to get the sleep the night before, and then it's like, all right, I got to get up at this time. I got to make sure I get enough sleep, and then you're laying there like, fuck.
It's always the way too, when you got to do something in the morning, your brain just does not stop and keeps you up all night. Actually, another piece of advice would be to also, like, a really big thing that I noticed in between the 2 years of doing the first time half marathon and the second year, was making sure, like, the second time round when I did it, I had a really structured gym program that I followed. So like, don't, just because you're running doesn't mean that you stop your other things as well. Like, I think it's really important to maintain a strength program and keep your foundations really strong, because that will help you when it comes to like the race day itself. So if you can keep active in the gym and balance between your runs and your training, you'll benefit greatly from it.
So see,
when's your run?
I'm planning for, what are we? We are going into July, August. what's the month after August? June, July, August,
September.
September. That's the one. I'm planning for
Nice.
September. So I'm going to Croatia in August. So I've still got to get some runs in while I'm over there. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, so it should be good. It should be
That's a good amount of time. That's a good lead up.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So we've got a couple minutes left. We talked about, you know, I like to give people flowers on the podcast, not literally, because obviously that technology hasn't been invented yet. But I like to give people flowers, and when I mean flowers, I mean prompts about what you're doing and like who you are as a person. So we talked about, your connecting to country, how you connect, not only with your co-hosts, but when you're going to events. We talked about the amazing work you're doing in the AFL, the presentation work, the emceeing, the podcasting, the stuff you're doing in the gym, the running. We talked about a whole, umbrella full of things. And I just want to thank you for managing your time. I think that doesn't get thanked a lot. How you're able to jump from one hat to the other, from one role to the next. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to come on this podcast as well. But just thank you for the work that you're doing, because I know it's inspiring to a lot of people that you probably aren't aware of, that you're probably, don't really get that rapport back, but it's being seen. I want you to know you're being seen. The work you're doing is being seen, and the inspiration that comes with it is just so contagious. So just I'll keep doing what you're doing, because it's freaking awesome.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I will take those virtual flowers and let my head grow a little bit.
Yeah,
but
yes,
no, that's I appreciate that. I really do. It means a lot, and vice versa. Like, it's for me a massive driver, and it's the main reason, really, the main thing that pushes me to continue to show up in all of these spaces is because it's making sure that I am leading by example for our next generation. I spend a lot of my time volunteering at this school on a Friday morning called MITS, Melbourne Indigenous Transition School, and I've built a beautiful relationship with the students and this school. And for me, it's so important to know that the younger generation, particularly in my family, I've got one of my cousins has 13 kids, and my nieces and nephews mean everything to me. And so to know that they get to look up to their auntie and know that, oh, she can do that, why can't I do that? And that is my main driver, and making sure that all of my little family members, nieces, nephews, all the students at MITS and beyond can go, if Megzyy can do that, I can do that too. Because that was what it was for me. And I've always told this story about like Kathy Freeman, Auntie Kathy Freeman. Her winning the Olympic, that 400-meter race in the Sydney Olympics was catalyst for me, because I seen her and I was like, that was what made me love sport. That was what made me want to be active and healthy, because I was like, I want to be like that, So shout out to you too, because you'd be doing exactly the same thing. You doing what you do is so inspiring. So
I just say yes to things. Okay, I don't even know what I'm doing. I just something comes along and I'm just like, yeah, I guess I'll try it. If I'm bad at it, well, I'll get better at it next time. But that's what you gotta do.
100%.
Oh well, but that's what it's about. So, and I know it's not always gonna be, you're gonna have your ups and downs, and you're gonna feel great one week and bad the next, and that stuff happens. But I want you to know that that you're on the right path, that you're doing great things, and you're very inspiring. So I'm
handballing it back to you. You too.
I'll catch it. Yeah. But thank you for joining me on the show, and all the best, Megzyy.
Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Catch ya.